Hello, hello, hello. Titus, can you hear me?
Yes, I can
Wonderful.
hear you.
Okay, greetings, folks. We want to first apologize for our technical difficulties. We're having them. It's been difficult getting on, but see, this is a very, very important show, so we had to do our best to be able to bring the show to you. I'm Isaac Vatuka Jr. I'm the CEO of the Piso Solution. We are a remote sensing technology company. We um, focus on a lot of work around remote sensing, geospatial analysis, and being able to present, imagery that are relevant to our own development as a people, whether it is from an infrastructure perspective, whether it's from a rehabilitation perspective, whether it's some of the impacts of things going on, or whether it's from a tourism perspective. So we do have a significant amount of content in general, but today's show is a separate issue. Is dedicated to our the impact of the sea erosion, how is affecting our different communities, how we can get some historical perspective and context on what has been happening. Similarly, we try to reach out to you, the audience. Some of you can probably provide some information that can be very helpful. And then our expert we have on today, he will introduce himself shortly, Mr. Titus William. And hopefully we can really, jump into the different topics that we have on hand today. So, Titus, please introduce yourself.
Thank you, Mr. Tokwa. Mr. Family, we come on. So, hi, audience. I am Titus Kaderick Williams. I hope you are getting me good.
I'm getting you clearly. I hope they are. And most times, if they're
That's
not, they would make a comment in the comment section and say, we can't hear.
okay, good. So, I'm Titus Kaderick Williams, and I'm a Liberian, surely. And I'm a PhD candidate in the Kingdom of Morocco, where I'm studying at the Center of Doctoral Studies at the Ibn Tufayl University. And this Arabian has been invited to be part of this important discussion, which mainly focused on my research area that has to do with coastal vulnerability, which includes coastal erosion. So it is a privilege because this is an alarming problem globally, and I can't wait to be part of the discussion and let's contribute what I can contribute. Thank you.
Wonderful. So one of the major things that really drove us to accelerate this process in terms of, bringing Titus on and doing this show is the situation with the Wologisi Resort. Um, we have been seeing coastal erosion all around the place in different forms. We have been seeing people being victimized. Back when I think it was 2008 when I founded, along with some other people, obviously from what was then CCL, concern a concerned Liberian group that had how should I say, a space, a virtual space that we went back and forth discussing issues concerning Liberia. It was called Coalition of Concerned Liberians. And unfortunately for us, we lost that page, but a lot of rich content was there. But through that group, we founded the Leader Fund, Liberia Emergency and Disaster Relief Fund. And there were, a couple of incidents that really spurred the formation of that group. It was the worms that were eating, the people agriculture produce, and then also the coastal erosion, which was, happening. It has been happening. Unfortunately, we have not put in all the necessary preventive measures to avoid it. Even today, when I share, or yesterday when I shared a link, there was somebody from Cape Mount. He shared with me some information. Hopefully he will come on. I'm about to send him the link for the show. But basically, there have been different impacts around our country with this coastal erosion. And luckily, we do have some other professionals who have been in this environmental space, in the engineering space, and understand these issues. Maybe hopefully they will be listening and they will ask to join us, or they will volunteer to come on. But for us today, we have with us our, hopeful in the next year, our PhD, Mr. Titus Kaderick Williams. Very smart young man, I must add, and not to make him cheese too much, but he is. He brings a lot of intellect to the table. He brings a lot of information, a lot of research, and a lot of energy, a passion for Liberia, a passion for making a difference with what's been happening. So before we share any images or so, Titus, we just want to get a high level understanding of what's happening or what has happened with Wologisi Resort and what's happening around this whole coastal erosion, and what kind of, high level measures we can look at that we can, dive deeper into in terms of solutions.
Thank you, Mr. Tokwa, and thank you for the commendations also. I must appreciate you too, that are always trying to push young Liberians always to engage into research, to also aspire for higher heights. So to answer the question, the issue of coastal erosion has not just started. It has been something like for decades. If I can retract back through research, when we started to talk about coastal erosion somewhere in the 1960s, 1972, 1982, when the Japanese companies called JICA were called upon to do an assessment of coastal erosion in Liberia. But globally, global coastal erosion has been happening because the continual rise in sea level, which is one of the major impacts of climate change that we continue to discuss. Somebody may ask, what is coastal erosion? So we have to define what is the coast, and then before we define what is coastal erosion, because the coastal zone normally is a buffer zone between the land and the sea. So in that zone, there are more phenomena that have been influencing the coast. And in the simple term, we can define erosion just by saying it's the washing away by the sand, the sediment, the rocks, by the waves that impact the shore. Because the waves that impact the shore, they comes with either a low energy or a high energy. And when they impact the shore, they break down these rocks, these cliffs, or these sandy beaches. Shortly, for the coast of Liberia, we have mostly sandy beaches, because to quantify erosion or to know how fast the coast is eroding or how slowly the coast is eroding is based on what we call the geomorphology of the coast. So that geomorphology, it gave you the resistance to the coast. A simple example is the Mampan Point stretch. If you see the Mampan Point stretch there, where they have stretched into the sea, that place is not touched. We don't talk about coastal erosion around that Mampan Point area, because there's a high rock resistance from a magmatic origin. So it's resistant. When we come down to Nuku Town, West Point, behind the JFK, and then the Wologisi area, which is on the highway around the Tropicana Beach, it's just 1%. Wologisi is just 1%. This is happening around all our coastal cities. From Sesto City, Buchanan to Robertsport to Maryland, we are having this continual coastal erosion. So just to define coastal erosion, and somebody might ask also, what's the causes? What are the causes of these processes? These causes can be grouped into two. We group them into two. We have the natural causes, and these natural causes are the sea level rise, that the storm sources, and that the wave or the high tides that comes and impact the coast. The anthropogenic causes, we call the human activity causes. These are the causes that we ourselves humans can provoke. It comes from the illegal or unregulated sand mining that people just get along the beaches. They start to remove sand, and these sandy beaches, they serve as a natural protection or a natural buffer zone for the coast, for the sea and the land. So if you remove these sandy beaches, the coast become vulnerable. And that's how we have most of our coastal cities have become vulnerable today. Another one is the increased population growth. If you can count, according to Leches and other entities, since the war, there have been a lot of people globally even that have been attracted to the coast. Why? Because we have a lot of economic activities that are going on there for fishing. People are building their hotels, people are building their resorts, as we are going to discuss deep into Wologisi today. So, just for brief, coastal erosion is an active process within the coastal zone, in that transitional zone. There will always be coastal erosion, but then the impact, how much has it impacted the coast? And this is how we're going to continue discussing.
Wonderful.
Super.
Wonderful. So you mentioned two major factors here. The fact that one is natural, this is a continuous process, and at the same time,
Exactly.
there's the aspect of human conditions and what we do.
Mm.
How do we, or let's for the person out there, what is easier? What can we do in terms of the natural stuff, and what can we do on the human side? Are those like easy things, or is there a preference? You know,
So thank you, Mr. Tukwa. So for the natural side, because for now the global sea level is rising, every country is being affected.
right,
Countries around us are being prepared. They have been preserving, they have been protecting, and they have been supporting their communities. That's where the coastal residents come in.
right,
So, how prepared are we? For example, Liberia, when we come to the human side of it, the anthropogenic activities that we carry on along our coast,
right,
the population, for example, at West Point, at Nukutan, or people that are building, are there regulations, are there policy? Because normally you shouldn't man the sand along the coast. So if we are regulating this system, we are putting system into place to stop people from illegal sand mining, to stop people from removing our mangrove, locking our mangrove. We will reduce the human activities impact. That's the side to it. For the side that has to do with the natural, what can we do? That's where the process of trying to build some revetment, build some impact-based, resistant-based coastal protection that will help us. Our people will stop being displaced. Our hotels, our resorts will stop being disturbed. So there are several solutions that can be taken into place, but it just have to be regulated. And that's simple because we have agency, for example, for Liberia. Other countries have their agencies. We have entities that have to regulate these illegal sand mining, not locking our mangrove forest. We have to protect our Ramsar sites. So all of this, it comes into one picture. There is one side to it, a government policy side, entity, or the community base, having also the community being included, because if you build 5 meters or 10 meters away from the sea, absolutely in 5 in 10 years time, you are not going to be there. With the rate of sea level rise we are having, you are just there for, like, you are renting for a few time. So this is just yeah, yes, you are just renting to the person there for a few time for the next 5 years, for the next 10 years. And these are, we when I was in Liberia lately, there are photos that we will put all and things, and people will see that people that fell within them said that they were doing good. They just went and built any way they wanted to do. After 5, 10 years, today, their horses are already in the sea and they can no longer live there. So this is concerning. This is demanding a lot from government, from entities, from ourselves, as as we are doing public awareness, community-based awareness. That Le Piso will try to deep into it, and then we'll see how best. And this is where also, like, the research base came into it, because, like, what's the problem? We identify the problem. What are the parameters that impacting the cost? We identify all those geomorphological parameters, and then we try to map up all the hotspots of coastal erosion along the coast through the help of your drone data that you have given me. I must say thank you to you, Mr. Chukba and Mr. Famile, for all the help you have rendered in this process. It's not easy getting to Liberia, having to observe coastal stress by coastal stress from Newtown, West Point, going down to Mampan Point, going down behind GFK, and you see vividly what has been destroyed. And when you talk to community people, other people that were there, they say, somebody will tell you, oh, that place that was one man hustle, the man house, he built it, jetted out, and then the coastal erosion took it away. And you see the traces of houses, of hotels, or some people that just built. And most of the houses that were built in those places are so substandard that just within one swell wave that comes, it will take it away. And this is why we are here to discuss, to see what's the solution we can get through government, through entities, and what we can offer.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Titus. Before we go further, let me introduce or let me welcome Mr. George Famile to the show. George, how are you?
I'm fantastic. How you guys doing?
We're doing good. We're starting off well. I know you don't need
Good.
introduction, but as the Chief Area and Technology Officer of Piso Solutions, I think you can just briefly introduce yourself.
Okay, great. My name is George Famile. I'm the Chief Area Officer as well as the Chief Technology Officer for Piso Solutions and Pepperbird Area Services. So,
Oh, wow. Somebody
one
said
of the-
half of Greenville is gone. I'm just hearing this, but sorry, George. Sorry for the interruption.
so one of the things that caught our eyes initially, we got involved in this thing to do the land surveying, and then Titus came along and he needed all of this coastal data for his thesis, and we decided that we're going to invest in getting him that coastal data because we believe that the service that he can provide to Liberians is phenomenal. We are also working on I don't know, Isaac, if you've mentioned our contract with Conservation International.
No, I haven't. Go
Okay,
ahead.
so we're also working with them in terms of mangrove, building a mangrove database and all of those kind of things. Well, it turns out that all these things are interconnected
Very much so.
because if you look at where we did the imaging a few days ago, it's less than 2.25 miles from the river and the mangrove swamp on the other side. So what we're actually looking at, especially in the Monrovia, ELWA, all along the coast, is actually a really slim sliver of land between the ocean and the river. I mean, it's highly visible when you're in Monrovia itself, but as you go towards ELWA and those places, you don't actually think it's there. But as soon as you do the remote sensing, you can, and you do the digital terrain modeling, you can see that you have all of these people who are building in these areas, which puts further stress on the ability of the water to flow correctly and protect the wetlands as well as not flood people out of their homes and resorts. So, even where we can present recommendations to somebody to save their one home or their one resort, like Titus correctly said, it needs to be elevated, and I think the thing we've discovered more than anything, Isaac, is the need for what I call a whole of government approach. Because the whole of government approach, you can say, okay, let's talk to the EPA. But EPA has one aspect of it to deal with. You can talk to Public Works. They have a different aspect of it to deal with. You can talk to whoever handles zoning for that area. Okay, you can talk to Lands, Mines, and Energy.
Land's not there anymore. Just mines and
Okay,
energy.
to mine. Okay, so you can talk to LLA. You can talk to all of those people. But as I was saying, I sent out a little picture today, and I said I was concerned that in the area where we did sensing, less than 500 feet from the shore, somebody decided that they were
Because
going to build a graveyard. I mean, 500 feet from the shore. Okay, it just tells me that there's an absence of zoning, for this area because we see what's become a farm grove cemetery. What we need to do is we need to stop. I mean, this is not a part of this conversation, but we need to close down that cemetery and start talking now about ways to move those bodies. Because
yeah.
if we get a huge swell, we're gonna find out whether or not coffins float.
Okay, so but just for the audience for me to elaborate, a little bit more. What George is talking about is a contract more so with OICO. OICO has a contract with Conservation International to create something called a national capital account for mangrove. So it's a mangrove account. There's now I could say a global system, the
Mhm.
system for environment slash economic accounting that accounts for our natural resources and how they can be incorporated into our national account. So they call it national capital accounting. And that system, SEEA, is the system for environment and economic accounting, is on an ecosystem accounting framework. So basically, our natural resources are being accounted for and factored into from both a qualitative and quantitative amount in terms of what they're worth so that we can understand those values. And it's starting off with a mangrove account, but there will be other accounts that will be established. So they selected us as their partner to be able to win this bid, and they've won the bid, and we just kicked off the project, and we'll be doing that analysis in collaboration with them, doing a lot of stakeholder engagement with some of these C entities we are talking about, the EPA, the Public Works, the Land Authority, the Mines and Energy, and
Mass
any
and
other
energy. Mhm.
entity that has something to do with the environment, has something to do with sustainable development. All of these are partners in this. And then at the center of this too is the Ministry of Finance and Development Planning, which does
Mm,
the national capital account for the national accounts for Liberia, the budgeting for Liberia, and how we can integrate that into the budget. So there's a lot of policy involved in that particular aspect. But when we come back to this now, this coastal erosion, coastal resilience, it's not much different. George was talking about the
yeah.
mangroves. If we look Jalatan area, all behind there, all the way to Matadi, people have been destroying the mangroves, and the mangroves serve a purpose. And maybe Titus can elaborate on the purpose of the mangrove. But you know,
Yeah.
the mangroves serve a purpose. They are there for a reason, and we are destroying them. We are building, in the swamp and moving those things. People packing dirt until they get there. And then when those areas get flooded, we want to blame government for the flooding. But you
Or
cannot
when the
blame.
area, when City Hall the other day got flooded, that was the first time I had seen it flood in my lifetime. But Isaac, let me
Today,
just
there's
say this really quickly,
Go
okay?
ahead, then we'll go. Yes.
And at a time when the government is stressed for resources, okay, the government needs to put in a robust permitting regime, okay, that will be. You see, one of the things we have to understand as Liberians is the government has to protect us, but that protection can't be free. Meaning, if there's permitting for every structure that is being built, those permits have to be paid for. There has to be follow-up inspection on where the buildings are going. So if somebody is going to present a house plan to the government in Liberia and say, this is a $200,000 home I'm going to build, this is the size of it, okay? That person, in my opinion, needs to be able to pay anywhere between $2,000 and $5,000 to get all of the necessary permits to build that structure. Because if you look at the amount of building that's going on in the whole Monrovia, ELWA, Shuffling, Wemba Town, or all of those places, I mean, we are talking about significant loss of revenue to the government, not just from the LRA perspective, but from Public Works doing the inspection to make sure, and the EPA coming in and saying, okay, yes, you can build here. So we have to be able to develop that entire framework because ultimately it protects everybody.
All right, so let Titus come in, tell us a little bit about mangroves and stuff, and then George, I hope you're prepping to share and present some of the images we want to talk about, like before and after, and then during, just the kind of erosion that has happened in this short time. I will give so people can see that the sea is unrelenting, and this stuff, if we don't have solutions, the comments people are making about half of Greenville gone. This guy told me a whole town nearly in
Cape Mount.
Cape Mount was gone, and I'm sure we can see the effect in other places. Cestus too has had problems. Go ahead, Titus.
Yeah. So for the mangroves, they serve as coastal protection. Normally, if you have a mangrove in place, sea erosion will be very, very slow at a low rate. So if you start to lift up the mangrove, like you open the door for sea erosion because there is no protection there again. So if you look closely, we're on the edge of Mountain Point going down West Point. That place, few years ago, if you track the Google Earth images, there were mangroves somewhere around there. But people decided that they were going to build. And they just built some 4-5 horses there. They took all that place. The current rate of erosion now is 5 millimeters per year, 5 meters per year. So this is what is happening. So, like what Mr. Familiar were talking about regulations. I did my master's thesis mostly on illegal sand mining and the integration of this sand into the construction, right? Along the Kenentra Rabat region. Immediately, you break the laws here, you pay money, and at the same time, you go to jail.
When you say you mean in Morocco, right?
Just in Morocco.
In Morocco. Yeah. Good. Thank you. In Morocco. Because they tell you to not build 2-story building here. Immediately, you build 2-story building, they build one on top of it. They don't need to get no discussion with you because certain community along the coast, certain things they tell you to do. The saltwater intrusion is coming. You are not allowed to build a well along the coast. You have to go further or before. So these are regulations that are put into place. For us, we always have engagement with the EPA. We always reach out to them to look for solutions. That's what we are going to do today, and we will continue to do through research base, through the Piso reaching out, through engaging them, because the Piso, for us, we are equipped. We have a research base, we have the technology, we have the practical knowledge. So we are hoping people that are following our audience, people that are living along the coast, also you can have a natural solution by yourself. Is to not go and build along the coast before regulation can come into place.
Right.
Thank you.
So we've mentioned multiple stakeholders here. We've mentioned the community, which is really the first line of defense in any of this stuff, and them understanding. And we have a very wonderful comment here from Mr. Marvin Kessel. One of the biggest challenge is creating community awareness, followed by law enforcement for lawbreakers. Illegal sand mining is creating major problems in Liberia, and he's not lying. But beyond the sand mining too, there's other extraction in the rivers of, we think there's some minerals in there that they are taking out. We don't know for sure. So to a large extent, the regulation around extraction of any part of our earth in Liberia is very limited. Dr. George Siawe and myself, we wrote an article on the whole sand mining thing and the negativity and the impact of it. We shared it, in the background. Maybe we'll publish it at some point, but it's just like a lot of stuff is happening that we as a people are not aware of and not really taking control of. So we talked about these other stakeholders, just from a general perspective. Titus, what are some of, and then George after that, what are some of these things, some of these stakeholders can come up with that can be holistic. Like George said, we got to attack this from a one government perspective, a whole of government perspective. And to do that, we need all these different components that are holding mandates for different aspects of our environmental security. So what can we say about that, Titus?
So the three entities or ministry that are responsible normally for regulating this, the laws under them are the Ministry of Mines and Energy, the Ministry of Public Works, and then the EPA. Luckily, I was able to meet some of them when we went to Liberia, hopefully through your intervention, all the arrangement, and then we had some good conversation with them. What's the problem? The problem now is the implementation, right? The problem we have in Liberia is either implementation or we want only reactive and not proactive, because like what's happening in Sano County today, 7 years ago it started. It's today that the government secured fund to do a coastal defense project in Sano. So if government has taken the initiative to engage that project, we are going to maybe build a small coastal defense compared to today. The coastal defense project in Nikutan, it should have been almost 1,200 meters. But today we only have up to 1,000 meters when I was there. So these entities, the ministry, there should be a side to it that we all have hands on deck. People from the research base, people from the practical side, the community, that listen, the community awareness that the audience talk about is so important, because if you are not informing, there's people that in the community, West Point, Newtown, and these places that I went, they don't know what is climate change. What are the impact of climate change? They are just living. So I think on a regular basis, we engage the ministry, the entities and things, and then at the end of the day, continue community awareness and putting policy and laws into place that these laws be efficient. It's not just to put the law there that it is there. For Liberia, I think when we had a conversation with the ED of the EPA, there are not coastal law that exists for Liberia. But this is why we are researching. This is why we are coming with drone, because most part of my research is just about how best we can quantify the historical shoreline analysis result using the endpoint method that we have quantified already. And the next one is to map all the hotspots. And then we are also projecting through the drone data we are having to project what will become of the coast in the next 10 years, in the next 20 years. That we create a database, we create a system that at the end of the day, we will track every year. We will track, has erosion reduced across the particular coast or is it increasing? And then we can be proactive to it to solve that particular problem. Yeah, thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you. George, you want to chime in?
Yeah, so I mean, from my perspective, one of the challenges that the government always has is the challenge of money. I don't believe there's a challenge of money. I honestly don't believe that. Okay, I don't believe that we have to go begging donors for money. Just from our own research with our drones, we see people building on orders of tens of millions of dollars in any given year, Isaac, in terms of the amount of construction that's being done.
Significant.
Whether it's residential, whether it's multifamily, commercial, and all of that. The problem is that we don't have a system that allows those people to pay for the permitting, or even after the risk analysis has been done. So let's say I have a piece of property on the beach. If I want to build there, I should be required to do the necessary revetment studies, and EPA needs to say, if you are going to build here, one, this is what you need to do to ensure that the building you are doing doesn't damage the shoreline so that now it places other people at risk. Or B, this is what you need to do. This is how it has to be done. Because if we look at all of these modern cities, Isaac, If you go to California, if you go to Hawaii, these people literally have structures that are in the water, and they've been there for years. But that's because I can't go and pick up a shovel and say, my man, I go and build an apple right there. No, you have to have, or you have to do everything that's necessary, not just to protect your property, but if you damage the shoreline in such a way, then you place everybody else at risk. So we need to have, I don't know what that aspect of it is called, but we need to have a multidisciplinary group that involves Public Works, EPA, Lands and Mines, LLA, to create a framework. Because I believe, based on the amount of construction that I've seen or that we've seen from our own data, the funding is there. If you're going to build a multi-story building that's going to cost you a couple of millions of dollars, you can't just build it and not pay for any permitting across the board.
Yeah. So, when we look at these things, a lot of people, I think, are asking, they've shared with us already some of the impact. But what would we consider some of the hot zones that really need immediate attention? You from the area perspective and you from your actual research that you just did recently, Titus, both you and George, please comment on that. Some of the hot areas that we need to pay attention to in short term.
Well,
Okay,
okay, go ahead, Titus.
Okay. So firstly, when the research problem came about, that's why we tried to look at. It's not just to say, okay, this place is breaking down. Oh, the one house got broken down. So we went to use remote sensing data. Firstly, we started with the Landsat images, which were far off in the air. We downloaded all the historical images, and then you analyze the coastal erosion rate. And then we got that. All these places that are mapped, we try harder to confirm that. Again, we came a little bit down. When I reached out to you and Mr. Family, that we can do the drone data to see her best also. Because we didn't just want to get it at one stage and then we say, okay, this place is vulnerable and this place is not vulnerable. So we went with the drone data again to observe, and then it confirmed what we observed also in the Landsat satellite images in Sentinel-2. And then I was lucky to be sent to Liberia by you both also. When I got on ground, and then I took my time in March to go from coastal stress to coastal stress, from Hotel Africa to Nuku Town to West Point, behind the BTC, passing beyond the Executive Mansion, JFK, and then coming down the Tropicana area a little bit. And then when I came back, I have to sit down and then compare all of this remote sensing data, the empirical data, and then using the GIS tools to quantify erosion and then project and then map all the hotspots. And absolutely all these hotspots were confirmed through this particular 3 stages. Hotel Africa, Nuku Town, West Point, at the back of the BTC barrack, JFK. When you come, another place that is really, really getting affected is the ELW area. Where coming before Kings Grade is really, really been affected. And then up to the Tropicana area. So for the lower part of the Tropicana coming back to Margibi area, the Margibi side, mostly the erosion there is mostly just being caused by the sand mining, because they are mining sand along the coast a lot from the Marshall area. Yeah. So these are the hot zones for Maserado. If you go to Buchanan, it's the big Fountain Town and small Fountain Town area going to the port of Buchanan. If you go to Sesto, Mr. Tukba will know that very well. Going behind where they had the small Fountain Town area and the crew, opposite the crew post behind the city building. It was unfortunate that I couldn't go Sino County, but then from the drone, from the remote sensing images and few friends from Sino, that we are all trying to exchange knowledge. Sino, the entire street there, Mississippi Street, has already been impacted. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Isaac, if I can,
Mhm.
let me share an image.
Please.
Present.
You're presenting, right?
Yeah, but my screen is okay. Here we go. Fantastic. Okay, so you guys can see this where it says swamp building, right?
Are you sharing?
Yeah, I'm sharing.
I did.
No, we haven't. We have not seen it yet. I still see
Okay.
us.
It says sharing this tab, streamyard.com, blah, blah, blah.
Is
There we
that
go.
all right?
You see it now?
Okay, okay,
Yes.
okay. So,
Okay, so
yes.
fantastic. So this image right here, that's where it is. Okay. Right around Peace Island.
Okay.
Okay. That's what we're looking at in terms of what's going on in the swamp. You see that?
The building the swamp.
The building in the swamp.
A lot of buildings.
Okay. So if we look right in this area here, I mean, these are people building mid-rise and nearly high-rise buildings in this area back here. Can you see my mouse?
Yeah.
Right. And these people have literally built in the swamp. Okay. That's a serious issue. If we go behind Jalatown, this is what we're talking about here.
Wow.
I hope people can see this.
I can
All
see
along this area. Okay. They're stuffing trash
Just-
all in here. I mean, look at it. Look how much this person right here has tried to reclaim. So what they do is they bring in the trash, they pile the
yeah.
trash in, and then they put dirt on top of the trash. But
The
somewhere
backfill.
in here, there has to be some sort of mangrove in there, for people for them to do this. But this is simply right across, because if you look over here, this is the Capitol building. This is the Temple of Justice. Okay, so this is one of our photo sets that we call mangrove build. Mangrove build. I mean, yeah, mangrove building. Look at this. Okay, so if you guys want to discuss um the stuff at Wologisi, I can bring that imagery up.
Yes, you can. I was about to, but if you have it handy, please
Yeah,
share
I
it.
do. Hold
Let
on.
people see the initial damage and just what has happened over the last couple of days. This stuff is relentless.
Okay, so this is what we're looking at right here. This is image. This is still imagery from. This is a drone imagery from Wologisi, as you can see. This is what's going on here. We also have the GIS based data that Titus is doing analysis of to find out how to address this situation. He's our expert, but you will see, like, I think this is Tropicana Beach over here.
Mhm.
Well, it used to be a beach. I'm not sure it's a beach anymore.
And then
It
you're
may,
absolutely right.
at some point it was a beach, but I mean, but look over here, right? This fence here we measured is only 11 feet from this berm right here. Okay, so let's go and back out. This is a higher altitude image. Okay. This is an even higher altitude image. This is the graveyard I was telling you guys about. I mean, no, I mean this is not a joke, Isaac. Look how close it is to the water. It's 500 feet.
It's troubling, seriously.
So it's very troubling. So as we look at it, here's somebody building a house that's completely on stilts. And my question is, how much of this stuff that they built here is going to actually protect this property? This is next to the lagoon.
Yeah.
So there's that. I mean, I can also show the drone. So let me stop sharing and bring up the drone data, the actual remote sensing data. Okay, so let's present this one. Share screen. Wologisi Resort. Window. Okay, that's what we want. Fantastic. Okay. So wait a minute. I did say share screen. I want to share a window. Select that tab. Let's see, share. Is it too big? I tried to share it, but I know where I can share it in Maps Made Easy.
So, somebody asked if Tropicana was damaged too. Not at this point. Tropicana was not damaged. But if you look at the images there, you take a close up to where Tropicana is. They do have some boulders in the front protecting them, but it's not enough. At some point, there will be, a serious threat to the sustainability of Tropicana being there in whole. And that's what a lot of people should be looking at. What's happening in the next 4 to 5 years? We have had this situation, and let me see if I can present something quickly while George is trying to. Let me see. I want to share my PowerPoint first. Let me just share my entire screen. Okay, so I don't know if you guys can see it, but if you look at this image that I have on here, it was on the first day. And this is, I believe, their lounge or, the pub area. And you can see the sand under here and this stuff still being protected. That was on the first day. When we went and did our aerial images, this is what we saw. The sand was still under here and still trying to hold, even though the waves were attacking this area. Then as of yesterday, you can see the deterioration and how far under this particular staircase the sea has eroded. So this stuff is progressive and hopefully
and unrelenting.
Exactly, unrelenting. So if we look at some of these pictures closely, this year.
So Tupac, can you zoom in? Can you zoom in a little bit?
I don't know. I'm not home. I'm somewhere and I'm operating from. Let me see if I can magnify.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
There you go.
Voila. That's it.
All right. So this here is the main structure that got destroyed. This here is the structure they're trying to keep. Next door is Tropicana right here. And like I was mentioning, Tropicana has a little bit of a boulder or buttress right in the front. But if you can see what the ocean is doing, the ocean is coming here, eating up through
And
this
it's
channel.
going under the rocks. So
Exactly.
Overflow.
my analogy to this is, it's like trying to protect your child's bed from pee. When you actually put the plastic underneath the mattress and not over the mattress. So it doesn't matter. It's still going to get pee on it. So at the
And,
end of the
and
day,
says y'all can see my face for someone who's the people in bed when was small. We know what we know
so
what you're talking about.
so the thing is that, the type of revetment that needs to be done, it needs to
Absolutely.
be done professionally. Okay, this is a work of engineering. This is Titus's expertise. Okay, so we have to be able to get all of these people along uh this route to decide whether or not they want to save their properties.
Right.
So Isaac, let me present. I think I
Okay.
got it. I will
You
use a
got it now?
screen now.
Okay, let me stop
Yeah.
sharing. Okay. But people can see how clear this is and how fierce this water is. You see how this stuff is cutting into this. It's not easy. I mean, I really empathize with the families involved. And to be honest with you all, I really didn't know who the proprietor of this place was initially until I talked to, I was trying to reach out to the lady, the Pauline lady. I didn't notice that her last name was Johnson. But when I did talk to Boyma Blake, he told me that was JJ's wife. And I was like, oh, this is JJ property he had told me about. He was opening and everything. And I was totally shocked. So I want to, really send our empathy and we really feel for what they're going through. We'll try to directly reach out and see, how we can support, how we can help. But it's not an easy thing. It's not a one person thing. It's a holistic effort that we all have to um, really work on and make happen. So, George,
Okay, so
platform
here
is
we
yours.
go. As you guys can see, this is the area that we did the drone survey of. So just so I kind of give people an understanding, it's one thing for us to send the drone out there to take pictures, but the pictures don't actually give us where the geospatial coordinates of the piece of property. So when we take the geospatial images, so this particular thing is comprised of about 400 images, and each of those
Yeah.
images are overlapping and they're tagged, and the software then stitches them together to
The
create
mosaic. Yeah.
the what's called an orthomosaic, and that allows us now to actually do really accurate measurements of spaces. Okay. So for example, as I was saying, up and down this entire area here, perhaps even further, we need to look at it, because any revetment that is done along this area, it simply means the sea is going to push to the next area.
The next area. Go.
It's just imagine trying to pour water down and putting something to block the water. The water just moves around it. So all of these people here, they need to look at it as a community. This is the area. This is the main area right here. So this right here is the main structure that was damaged. This is the structure that Isaac was talking about with the stairs. Um, and this is my graveyard right here.
Maybe we'll bury you there. Keep saying your
Well,
grave.
nah, you ain't burying me there. I'm gonna be cremated, man. This is no, but I mean, and you got this whole. I don't know. Somebody has something they were building here, but I mean, you can just take a line and measure from here. It's
Mhm.
449 feet.
449 feet. That's it.
Right.
So,
So, you know,
wait, Title, what's the rate of erosion right now? Is what, 5 meters or 5 centimeters?
five
Yeah,
meters.
5 meter per year.
5 meters per year. So
And
we got 400 feet.
yes, and
If we divide it by what, 3.2, 3.3. So we got we don't have that many years. Oh.
No.
you know what is scary most? After we did the historical shoreline analysis, we projected the shoreline for the next 10 years and then for the next 20 years, which is
Okay.
2036
Right.
and 2046.
Okay.
If you see where the 2036 and 2046 shoreline are, that's the document we will share with the ministry and then we'll be putting out by God's grace, hopefully in the next 3 months before
Okay.
my dissertation. And you will see that we are almost closer to the graveyard. We are almost behind Hotel Africa itself. We are almost behind 10, 15 buildings behind West Point in 2036, in 2046.
Right.
Because there is a rapid sea level rise globally, and it's directly affecting us too. Because
So
we are along the Gulf of Guinea, and in the
Hmm.
Gulf of Guinea, our coastal stress there is mostly sandy beaches. That's one of the problem we are having. Most of our coastal stretches are sandy beaches, and these sandy beaches, immediately there is a hard swell or storm surges that come, it just swept away. And the buildings that have been built along these places are substandard buildings. If you go to
that's
West Point, you
that's
go to
another
Nikutan,
issue.
they put, yeah.
That's another
So
issue.
they are not trying to.
But George,
So
I
it's
don't
the
know how you
scary part of
if you
it.
have an image that can share with people. People know Tottenham Boulevard. You go B side and I'm far. You
Oh,
see
okay. So yeah, let,
Landstar,
let,
so
let
people
me
can
get
see the
that.
strip that's between the ocean and the swamp. So
Let me
people
let
can
me
get an
get that.
So
understanding. And folks, it's not a lot of land. It's not a lot of land, and we need
I wish
some
we
kind
had
of
a land
protection.
cover map.
No, and somebody asked for a representative of EPA or Lands and Mines, or maybe even Public Works should be on the show. We'd love to invite them for them to educate
Please,
our people on what they are doing, with their own programs. Because some of the recommendations we make here in the end has to do with them. Like we said, they has to be holistic. It has to be kind of whole of government and community and other stakeholders who are involved. There are partners who are doing stuff like related stuff, and actually people
Mhm.
who have paid for some of these revetments to be built, right? But sometimes in the process, like he was saying, I think 1,200 meters or so distance, people came to 1,000 or whatever it is. We try to cut the edges of these things. And it's very risky when people try to take
Mhm.
shortcuts or they try to be corrupt with people's lives. So we have to be very conscious of that. And I want to give
Yeah.
warning to some of the people all the way to ERWA. I will quickly share this image. Yeah, let me just share my entire screen and then go to it. So people can see the stretch. Oh no, I think it's in is a okay, here's the stretch. So if you can see my cursor at the
Hmm.
far left, this yellow button, that's where the situation happened. Now, right here to this point, and you can see this area, and there's a pool near here. Is one of our big shop property. It's only 1.6 miles, and you can see the ocean. You can see the ocean hitting this whole zone, coming all the way over here. So, like Titus said earlier about the people in the ERW area and extending further, I believe is further East.
Down Pinsville,
Yes, yes,
Kingsgrade area.
exactly. There's serious threat. So we shouldn't take this lightly. We can always go back and measure these, but if you guys saw what George measured in terms of the 500 feet, most of the areas are not 500 feet away from the beach. I mean, from the ocean. So it's a threat, and we really need to take it seriously. Hopefully, our government, our leaders have some answers, but it's about time that we really put focus and energy into this. Like George said, he doesn't believe it's a money issue. We got to find it from somewhere and make this thing happen for people, or there has to be some thought process around evacuation if they can take whatever study Titus will share with them very seriously. So let me stop sharing.
Okay, let me try to share and try to bring up this 19th Street thing. I don't know why it's not letting me share that particular. Well, hold on. 19th Street. No.
So Noble Formula is saying, I really hope like Piso Solution can sell this data to the government and convince them of the urgency to act before the water totally engulfs the remaining land. So, you bring up a solid point, a Noble, but it's more to us about the long term, like you say, a long term solution, right? But it also involves data by itself. There's a lot of GIS data all over spaces in government. We don't have a full picture,
We need to compare them.
and we have been pushing, the other man talking about address system, La Victo. we're talking, we're talking about
And
that one afterwards. But all of these are solutions that can move us to be a developing or developed country. We have to be foundational. And the president has started the process with Executive Order number 147 in terms of the national identification. It has to move also from citizens and our expats or our other residents who are not Liberians to asset. Everything needs to be identified. We only 5.4 million people, even though I think we actually have about 6 million people. But identifying us takes some time, and the work rate that they're projecting in terms of really getting all the data for everybody in Liberia is kind of understated. They need to know what it would take to register these people and how they can, decentralize the effort to register these people. And also those people who are issuing policies, mandates, directives about how quickly people got to have their ID. They got to understand the challenges that people are facing. They cannot just demand, I could not access my bank account because I did not have a national ID card. I had to do a workaround. And I actually had a national ID card, but when I went to Sierra Leone in February, I lost my card and I had not replaced it. So it's probably challenging for those people who are in areas where the service is not readily available. But that's just part of the point. The point is the education. The point is the stakeholders really getting together, especially the government, the government people, the people with the power, the people in the position, the people with the mandate to take certain actions, really collaborating in a holistic way to make this, difference for our people. And sometimes you gotta use, eminent domain and say that, look, this is not an area you guys should be in. You should move for us to be able to start to build these revetments now to protect for the future. So all of these are serious decisions. And sometimes people say, oh, they're just moving the people. They just do. No, they're trying to protect our environment. They're trying to protect people. So we have to understand that government also has a responsibility and obligation to protect its citizens. And when they take those actions, hopefully people will resonate with it and understand, especially if there's some communication around the efforts that they are trying to do.
all right, Isaac, let me see if I can share this thing on Google Earth.
Okay. So when you get to present, then I will know and share it. But in the meantime, Titus, if you want to come in,
Can I? Yeah, yes. I just wanted to add up something. What the
right?
person is saying.
Okay.
It's like you rightly said. It's not about us setting the data, because one important thing is we are Liberians. One, we want to know, are we improving? Because if you look at how much the UNDP, our partners, have invested foresee erosion or for our preparedness, what have we done for the last 7 to 8 years? What have we done? Most of our coastal stress is still being under pressure because the wave continue to exert immense pressure on this coast. So the entire Masorado, if you look at the West Point coastal stress, these revetments that they put into place also, what can be done? Why? Where are the data? Somebody who is researching on this project, if you ask some of the entities, oh, can you share this data with me? It's like, oh, go to this person, oh, go to this person, go to this person.
That's
So
another
what can
issue.
we do as what can we do as a country? These agency entities, we have to create a database where we input all of these systems that today or tomorrow, if you have 10 students even studying out, 10 students that want to improve or increase the research, they want to go to another level, you just share these basic data with them and then they can be able to use it. It
And
was
that's
my
what,
first time that the first time that I even know that a Liberian person was using a drone to at least map along the coast. I wrote more than 30 persons in government, more than 30 persons in government for assistance, how to get this geospatial data, how to at least, if we can get it, how can we get it through the entities? And no one could reply to me. Some of them, oh, we'll try. We'll see what to do. We'll see what to do. At the end of the day, maybe you were the 32nd person when I wrote on LinkedIn, and then before you reply, oh, we are into this land use, land mapping survey, and I say, okay, we can use it. So it's just a system that's easy to put in. People in Morocco, for example, just a state, Kenintra Rabat, they have a problem, they look for the solution, and the solution was to just build a coastal revetment. They did the analysis. Today, if I just go to the office and I say, oh, I need the data that you use to build this coastal system or the geospatial data, and they share all with me. I just need to show my student ID card. But Liberia, no.
okay, George. I think
Okay,
you're
so
ready,
yeah,
right?
yeah. So let me just show this really quickly. And Isaac, if your pointer works on your end, it will be great. But this is 19th Street. This is can you use your pointer there, Isaac?
Yeah, 19th Street Beach side, right?
Right. Okay. So if you look at where these red lines, this red column is,
The alleys, right?
that's supposed to be a street, not an alley.
Oh, a street. Wow.
Yeah, this is 19th Street, the one here, and it's supposed to go straight through. You can see where um people have literally built in there. But what I want to focus on, Isaac, is the area to the bottom there, and I'm not sure how I can make it larger.
Just you see, when I was doing a PowerPoint presentation, I could expand. But if you zoom on your own image, maybe if you're using a browser right now, go and try
No,
to
that's a
zoom.
still picture, right? That's a still picture, but I would get a bigger one of this, but in the area between the two red columns,
Right.
Isaac,
Yeah.
you see where the water is pushing in there?
Yes.
Okay, so let me
And just so
get a
folks know, that's between 19th Street and 18th Street right there. So if you look at the cross street, the last cross street that looks straight, you can see it's blocked off there. It's not coming all across. The last street that really goes across is Pine Avenue. So the last street comes up and is blocked because people are in the alley and maybe there's no enforcement there. So the same way coming down is actual street on 18th Street. I know my folks are right there in terms of Wisdom Community School is in the block. I support them. I have a student on scholarship there, and I support the school. But they may need to think about relocation. You know, if the zoning efforts by public work today to clear all these alleys, if it's going to be continuous and going to crisscross the entire, Monrovia, that's a destination that may be, impacted. But
okay, so
yeah, go
I
ahead, Joe.
added the second slide, Isaac. Let's see if we can. Let me stop share. Let me remove this one,
Okay.
and let's the second slide is there. See if you can bring it up and let me show it. Right. This is what I was talking about.
That's good.
You see where the water's coming in here?
Yep.
This guy with this fence right here, he doesn't know it yet. But he's going to find out soon. Okay? His properties, you see that?
George, I know the people in the area. I would think I would take this to them and share
Where
with
you
them.
better take it to them, because this guy with this house right here, this fence, is about to be gone.
So-
Because what has happened was, go ahead.
No, I would just, folks, our workout group used to work out on this beach. All they play where you see water right now, it was actually sand. This place you see water just 2-3 years ago. There was sand. I mean, real beach that we worked out on. So this erosion is no joke. It's very aggressive, and something needs to be done about it. Because you see, this is a little swamp right here. You can see this body of water right here in the middle, and you can see the channel into the ocean. But the ocean is coming. So George, go ahead.
Let me see if I can pull up 19th Street on a 3D, and that will give us an even better view of what I'm talking about.
You mean on Google Earth?
No, on Polycam.
Okay, on Polycam. All right. So yeah, so the bottom red strip on the right side is 19th Street coming all the way down. There's a nightclub or bar or something right there. That structure right there in the middle of the street is what it is. I don't know why George can zoom in. If I had the image, I would probably be able to zoom in and share it. So George, if you want to send it also.
Hold on, come here. I think I found it.
Okay. Well, Kajal Ne Nimle, you asked if the government has the tools and the capacity to do this analysis. I don't know if they have the aerial tools, if they have the drone, if they can process the images themselves. But I know they do have some GIS experts who, probably would be able to manipulate the data and analyze it. Oh, that first. Okay, so explain to people what this image is.
So this image is a 3D recreation of the 2D picture I showed you guys, and so what it allows us.
3D is 3-dimensional. 2D is
3-dimensional. What it allows us to do is to rotate the imagery that we took from everywhere to see it from all angles. So, for example, I can go here, and this is looking, I believe, Isaac. What street is this? This is on the fence with JFK.
Oh, then I probably that 20th Street.
But you see, if you're looking down this street right here, people are already closing off the street.
I've been down there. Okay, there are houses, businesses
in the street
there, all the way to.
But Isaac, you can see where the street is supposed to be.
Yes.
Like right here at this point right here.
Right.
That's where the street is supposed to be. Everything in here is in the street.
The whole place in the street. Yep.
So this right here is now 19th Street.
19th Street. That's Penn Avenue. You got right there.
This is Penn Avenue right here.
Exactly.
This is 19th Street.
Right.
But you can see people are blocking off. And when you go to the next area, I'm sorry about that. If you move this over, this is 20th Street. It doesn't go to the beach anymore.
No, that's not 20th Street there. That's 18th Street now.
Okay, 18th Street. I'm sorry. But now you can see.
No, but that's what I was saying. Right there, you see that place right there to the right, that little brown zinc. That's the Wisdom. That's the Wisdom Community School.
This right here.
Go down a little bit. Go down right here. Right at the end of the Kotar, there's a small little pharmacy there, and there's the Wisdom Community School. So there's no space. I used to live right in that community with the people.
Okay, well
Mr. Tukba, I sent you a video. I sent you a video for that back for the side of the coast.
Okay.
So let me just show this, and then we'll go to Titus's video. What we're talking about. This guy right here. Remember the guy with the water pushing into his place? Here we go right here. Okay? That's his trouble. So he already has pooling of water. This person right in here.
Yes.
Okay, but you
So that
see, there's supposed to be a fence here, but it's not going to help him
no.
because the water is pushing and it's all behind here. So, but I think the bigger point I wanted to make is it's very difficult to build these revetments when you have people building shanties like this. Okay, so it can move. Okay, like somebody will say in Liberia, you can move or you will be removed. Okay, is no two ways about it. All of this area here has to go.
Okay, so somebody has an interesting question. I'll let you answer, then I will buttress it. But let's just share Barrett's for comment. The
Hmm.
government has done several studies which led to the development of the Monrovia Metropolitan Coastal Resilience Project.
Hmm.
Another full assessment was done for the entire coastline of Liberia under the NAPE project. We understand that, Barrickford, and we really, really hope that government can sensitize its people on its efforts. Because some people say, oh, because we're doing this, so government has not done anything. Yeah,
But here's the
government has done
thing.
some stuff, but they need to educate the people on what they're doing and what they plan to do next.
But
What are the
where
next steps?
is the repository?
And that's what will
Where
come.
is that stored? It's one thing for you to tell me that you have $1 million, but under your bed to your house, and you can't get to it, or no, you can't get to it to spend it. So listen, my challenge is that the government has to develop a unified data structure for all of these things.
And
So
these
it
things
can
are
be
all
available for people
interrelated
to study. They're all interrelated. So,
because you can do layers
Barack,
of
you're
these things
telling
for
us
the
this,
same
but
location
it's
to solve the
because
thing.
you have this specific knowledge. Okay? Outside of you, we have to go and find somebody else who may show up on the show and say, oh, we got that one. If you look at all of the GIS experts who are funded by donors, where is their data?
Right now, the new project we are going to be involved with in terms of the national capital accounts and developing a mangrove account. There has been, like this individual said, there have been a lot of studies done. But can anybody point to, and this should not be secret data, it should be accessible data. We need a platform, a GIS platform, and ListGIS, the Liberia Institute for Statistics and Geoinformation Services, should be the repository of all this GIS data across government. And that's something I hope, Honorable Richard Gaffwan is really looking to and really working towards, because ListGIS should be that where any other agency, ministry, public corporation or whatever, whether that LEC, whether that water and sewer, can be able to access the GIS data to know the positioning of certain things, to be able to do some analysis and be able to assist them in their mandate in terms of, whether positioning water, certain places, positioning light pool, wherever, all of
Pipes,
those
all
things.
of that.
So all of this stuff is necessary stuff. George, here's a question for you, and I think this is a good question.
Or can you tell us how we determine which areas? Well, we have some of the work we've done for specific clients. We also, I tell you what, let me Noble, let me just say this. I never miss an opportunity to capture images.
He can
Okay?
harass me. Oh. I'm going to
I
walk up on
never
his
miss an opportunity.
I'm going to take
So
you with me to take a picture.
there's several different classes of drones you have, right? You have what's called the mini drones, which are under 250 grams. Okay, those drones you can carry in your briefcase. You can literally carry on a person. Okay, when I move around the U.S., I carry my drone with me every time. Here's how I do it. First thing is get the drone up and get pictures. Once you get the pictures, then you can decide, is this something I want to do a survey of? Because doing a survey, you have to plan, you have to, capture the imagery. So, for example, we're doing a survey for Titus right now at OAU, and we just completed phase 3 of it. And I would tell you, phase 3 took 1,191 images. Okay, total of something like 20 gigabytes. So one of the challenges that we have is that data has to be sent to us, and then has to be transmitted to us. But I'm pleased to announce on this show that the Piso Solutions is building its own GIS data processing and storage infrastructure that will be hosted at Liptelco,
Wow.
so that this data can be processed in Liberia. Because everybody who's doing drone surveying, they're spending money to send the images out of Liberia to process.
All right, but qualify now. They will still spend money to process it with us, but they'll spend less money compared with them sending out of the country.
So here's how they're spending money in Liberia when they do it. First of all, they have to buy the data to transmit the images. Correct? If you need to transmit 20 gigabytes of data, you have to buy that data from MTN. Then when you send the data, you have to pay them to process it. So what we're going to do is we're going to remove the whole cost of you sending data, sending your images, and the only cost you will have now is a cost to process the image in country.
But you also got to recognize that after they process the image and you want to bring it back to you, you got to pay for that download as well.
Correct.
So that
Correct.
up and down, you are paying money. But in Liberia, if we get the data, when we get the processing and storage infrastructure at Liptelco set up, you will only be paying for processing. So that's important. George, but I want you to address this because I'm not sure this is 1,000% correct.
That's not right.
For what is saying, Liz just got all this public information already, which is
where? Okay, so just tell us where.
You say it's public, right? So share with us the link that all this public information with this GIS information is on Antifa. Because I think that's wrong. We have been asking, we have been searching, it's not available. All right. The second piece about leveraging the required data to implement the appropriate measures across the country is not happening as it should. But if you see a project like the Monrovia Metropolitan, resilience effort, some things are happening. The pace at which they're happening, or the implementation of it is not widespread enough. The sensitization of the people who are in those communities and who have to be involved, and just the rest of the public that need to be informed about these things sometimes is limited, and we all need to do a better job of it. So hopefully the next show we can have representative from the Ministry of Public Works, from the Ministry of Mines and Energy, as well as the EPA, where we can really have a discussion on where they are, how they are collaborating. So
I'm not sure if you guys can hear me.
We can hear you clearly. What were you trying to say? But anyway, now, so I think we need to move into, we have shared the problem a lot. Let's try to move into solutions as to the role of different pieces of this puzzle can really come to bear, so we can say we have a whole of government approach to our solution here. The community needs to do X, Y, Z. The ministry needs to do X, Y, Z, and stuff like that. Can you hear us, George? It sounds like you can hear us. And folks, there have been other areas where some major coastal defenses and community engagement have occurred. Right in Senegal, they had I think, West Africa Coastal Area Management Program. They managed to get some money from, the World Bank, and then other local and regional partnerships. They were able to construct the revetments and the sea walls, armoring those urban areas and protecting them. And then, like I said earlier about relocation, they relocated the vulnerable communities inland and provided them compensation. Sometimes you have to do that, even though many of those people are squatters, it's not their own property. But you got to, if you're moving them, especially after they have stayed somewhere for a long time, probably statutorily is their property now, you got to provide some level of, how should I say it? Some level of compensation for them to be able to move, right? And then there's something called mangrove restoration, where you can really replace the mangrove that will allow us to reduce the wave impact, because like Titus has said, it protects against the wave. It's a buffer zone. And if we can't have that buffer zone, then we got problems. So, they were able to do that in Senegal, reduce the risk. And I think it was over $200 million that they really put into that project. So, we're having a discussion, and sometimes there's some people who believe that, we don't need to spend $30 million to save West Point, right? Because the returns are not there. But if you do the necessary things where you can remove the people, relocate them, protect the area, and then bring in an investor. I mean, that's prime beach property right there. West Point or Nukutown, all the way down the coast, going toward Habel. So if we can do some of those things, get real investors, even right our own Providence Island area, that island literally getting smaller and smaller. Okay, but things can really happen there. In Bangladesh, they use nature-based solutions rather than just putting up revetments and stuff like that. They involve different pieces of the government, and then they created embankments, with whether that marshes or whether that mangroves, or they use the natural stuff. And then if you bring in, like, I think somebody else suggested the whole zoning thing, you can create that buffer zone where you got the natural, then you got the restrictive in terms of zoning, then you got the environmental and social, impact assessment, where it's required that people know, government knows, anybody who building, will be impacted by the system. That means the system knows you're doing something. The system will either agree that this particular structure you're building fits into the profile of what we want in this area or not. And in Bangladesh, we were able to impact 760,000 people. So we got to consider what's this impact to us if we don't do anything. So many of these things are things that, is possible, is doable, but it takes work, it takes research, it takes analysis, it takes effort. And we are glad the Monrovia Metropolitan Climate Resilience Project is on now, right? And government needs to articulate more about it. I think there's a global climate fund that's involved. I think UNDP is involved. Plus, the public Ministry of Public Works is the implementing partner. So what they're doing in West Point, what they're doing in Newtown, other places they're addressing that are threatening the people's homes, the schools in the area, these high risk areas, identifying them in Greater Monrovia, whether Sino or whatever the other project is, the urban resilience overall. All of these things need to come to bear because they matter and they make an impact. Josh?
I think Mr. Famila is in backstage. Yeah.
Oh, the man drop off? Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay. George, I don't know if you're listening.
No, I was listening. So, this guy, you were just talking about Providence Island.
Right.
I've got a couple of things I wanted to share with you guys about my time in Hawaii. Okay, I took this image with my drone, and I called this little place here Providence Island. It's actually not much bigger than Providence Island, but as you can see, the entire area is all water.
I was impressed. I thought our Providence Island just now have been rehabilitated, but sorry, go ahead.
The entire area is just all water. Okay, so if you even go to the second image that I have in there, that I call Bushra Island.
No, you got to share it. I don't have access to it.
Okay, so let me delete this one, and let's look at the next one. It's up there.
Again,
I want to address that.
Go ahead, Titus.
The comment from the person. Firstly, he said they are public knowledge. And then he comes by, he had heard director say, look, if you in Guinea-Bissau, they have done coastal revetment. In Morocco, they have done coastal revetment. If you go to the entity website, you just click their website, you go, and then they give you structure of data they have used.
You have access
So
to
if you say later, you have access to it. They just need to send you the link. They just need to go to their website. And someone is, you keep saying they are public knowledge. After you say, I have heard. So there have been
Yeah,
a lot of
it can't,
engagement.
it
Mr.
can't be
Goodman
both.
knows.
It can't be both. If it's
Yeah.
public, put it to you this way. What is public knowledge? It needs to be publicly available
Yes, accessible and
and
available.
accessible. Okay?
So we're not trying to, kind of spotlight you, but the reality is the data that you're talking about is not readily available. Sometimes even when you try to get the GIS person in these areas, they don't necessarily want to speak to you. So there's a challenge with data. There's a challenge with information. And until we can overcome some of those things and be able to have a concentrated repository of this information that's accessible, that people can analyze independently, like Title was saying, or university student want to enhance the knowledge base around what we're doing in Liberia and want to add onto that data, that knowledge, that information. Until they have that access, it's tough. Yeah, bourgeois Allen, yo.
Yes. So, I think the point I'm trying to make, Isaac, with these images is that every problem Liberia faces
Has been solved somewhere
has
else.
been solved somewhere in the world before. None of this is unique to us. This is what people are doing in Hawaii. Okay? These people are literally living in the water. This piece in the middle here, you have to take a bridge. You can see the small bridge up here at the top. You have to take a bridge to get here. Some of them have their boats where they can go to the mainland, dock their boat. This place has been there for at least the last 40 years. So the question is, what are we going to do with this? Listen, Mr. Hime. Again, Listis is quite aware of us. They are aware of our company. We are aware of them. Okay? I was a part of the original assessment team for the transition. Okay? Listen, nobody is here to badmouth Listis. That's not what we are doing. There's no reason for them to be defensive, for you or any other Liberian to be defensive. This is what we are saying. The government of Liberia needs a national geospatial data repository. That repository cannot be held on somebody's laptop in Listis. It can't be.
Or a previous contractor who did a contract.
Or a previous contractor who did work for them. This is one of the reasons why we are saying we are going to build a geospatial data processing center for our company, so that anybody who comes to Liberia to do geospatial processing, they must do that geospatial processing in Liberia, and that work must go and be property of the government. Okay, I think this whole defensive nature, you need to talk to this, they got it. Listen, they may have it. It is not readily available. It is not compiled. Every government entity, LISTIS, LLA, Ministry of Agriculture, Public Works, they all have GIS people who have been given to them by donors. None of that work is in any kind of infrastructure. And this is why I'm saying we need to move away from this free thing that people giving us. We need to build our own. And I don't want to hear any director general, commissioner general. I don't want to hear any of them saying we ain't got money to do it. Money is being spent doing construction in Liberia. Tens of millions of dollars every year by private people doing construction. You don't have a regime in the country to provide the certification and the cost of that certification to pay for these types of services.
Okay. All right.
So everything is a freebie.
Oh, that Princeton.
Yeah,
George got some lazy dogs that got
come
big
here,
barks.
Princeton. Come to dad. Come on, buddy.
All right, so folks, let's try to close this up. Let's start with the solutions in terms of the community. What can we look at in terms of the people who are being victimized and the neighbors who probably got the potential to be victimized? What can we look at solutions?
Well, I think the solutions, Isaac, as we've spoken about it, backstage, is the people who are directly impacted. There needs to be a multi-pronged effort. They need to understand how they can do the revetment in a professional way that will protect their property. B, public works needs to be involved. EPA needs to be involved. Okay, but we have the capacity to design those revetment strategies and share it with the government. Okay, so T4 White said, I do not disagree with you guys on availability. Let's just should have all this.
We don't disagree with that either.
But his original premise was that
he has come to where we are, so it's okay.
Okay, we agree they should have it. The opportunity to collect and privatize is not a bad idea if they do not want to share what they have. Listen, I don't think it's so much that they don't want to share what they have. Okay, it's a capacity issue. Okay, we have done calculations on how much data storage it would take to store all of the GIS, the geospatial data for the entire square kilometer area of Liberia. And Isaac, how much did we come up with?
You see, I think I was right. Nearly 5 terabytes or something.
No, it was 5 petabytes.
5 petabytes. Okay.
Okay. So 1 gigabyte is 1,000 megabytes. A terabyte is 1,000 gigabytes. A petabyte is 1,000 terabytes. Okay? Storage on that magnitude, you can't keep it in your house.
No way.
Okay? It has to be in a data center.
And just for some of those people who let's talk about the cloud thing a little bit. For some of the people who think our data has to be in the cloud, I mean, it got to be in another country or somewhere else. No.
And so I was just going to say, okay, I know there are a lot of data people out there who say, oh, let's just move it to the cloud. That's expensive nonsense. Okay? That's lazy nonsense. Okay? You know what a cloud is? Is somebody set up a server somewhere, they say, put your data on your cloud. You have a data center sitting at the telco with no servers in there. Put the data center, for one thing, here's the other thing, Isaac. Let's say you move all of this data to the cloud. Every time you access it, you're going to have to pay for connectivity.
There's a potential partnership, George. I think maybe we can find out from the EPA how we can support this effort. Berexford has been wonderful in sharing information. Yeah, he said, look, I highly appreciate what you guys are doing in sensitizing the public on these issues. And Isaac has been a great help to the EPA. Speaking of systems, the climate change knowledge sharing platform developed under the NAPS, NAPS, had the required infrastructure and technology to facilitate environmental data sharing and access. Sadly, the system is offline due to some technical issues. The environmental knowledge sharing management system has been restored and a lot of work was done. Wonderful.
We need to move that data to a data center in Liberia.
So Beresford will connect with you.
It can't be offline for technical issues.
1 second, George. Beresford will connect with you and see if we can get an understanding. Maybe, you know, some access to, we have our technical guy, one of our data guys on the ground connect with you if if it's okay with you for us to see what the issues are and whether we can support and assist with the issues. But what you're seeing is essential. If work has been done, that work should not be lost. Hopefully, is retrievable and it can be reworked into something that's can be accessible by the public. Sorry, Titus, go ahead.
Yes, I think I met Barry for one, Jalas, when I was in Liberia. I shared his contact with you.
Yeah, we talked to
So
him.
we had a brief conversation. So hopefully, we are hoping that things move faster. Like you said, the system comes back online, and then we have a center set up. We'll see what to do. But like everyone is saying, we are all on the same path. We just want the good for the country. And I see him; he's actively responding to comments, and it's good.
It's very good. It's very good to be engaged. So
So hold on. Let me address Mr. White.
The one he just said with the private cloud.
Why is it more expensive to run than why is it more expensive?
But Tifo, you can come on and show is data.
One of the cheapest things you can buy today, Chief, is storage. If you are physically buying a NAS drive, okay? So don't tell me it's expensive to run when you have a data center in Liberia that's
underutilized.
That is less than 20% being used. It's just there. Guess what? The lights are on 24 hours. The systems are on 24 hours. So why are you telling us that it's expensive to run? Expensive compared to what? To paying every day for AWS? This is not true. Let's go back. The Kenyans, they don't run their systems on AWS. The Ghanaians don't run their system on AWS. Liberians are just simply too mentally lazy to want to do the heavy lifting. This is our country. We have to do the heavy lifting to build the data infrastructure that we need. We can't just be going to buy every day. It has to be under our control. We have to control our data. I disagree. Some of our Liberian engineers work as engineers for Amazon Web Services. You want to tell me they don't have the capacity for us to buy the hardware and set up our own private cloud in Liberia? Our national data cloud in Liberia? Come on, man.
Okay. Going off.
So Mr. White says now, redundancy, operational cost. Boss man, these are things that we can do. We can do redundancy. None of this is strange. Everybody else has done it before. And Berexford, the reason I sound agitated is simply because we are trying to give up before we even start.
I'm absolutely surprised that Tifo White, who I think is a progressive thinker and want things to happen for Liberia, is erecting all these impediments or these things that are supposed to make this impossible. Tifo, come on. We can do this. We as Liberians can do this. You, a technology person yourself, and you know this stuff is doable. It's not impossible for us to do. So let's not put in all these roadblocks.
Tifo, let me give you an example. The data center was originally built to host the IFMIS.
The IFMIS system, yes, the financial stuff.
It was there until George Weah became president. When George Weah became president, Samuel Twe and them decided that they were going to take all the servers from the IFMIS and move it to the Ministry of Finance. Here's my question. Does the Ministry of Finance have the bandwidth, the connectivity? Because if you understand how the IFMIS is supposed to work, every other government agency is supposed to be able to connect to that box or to that server. Nobody can explain to me what the rational thinking was to remove the data from, what's the name of the place? From the data center, where the data center has 24/7 electricity. 24/7. And you know how I know? The internet in Liberia has never gone down because Leptelco didn't have light. It's never happened. The internet has gone down because the cable was cut, but it's never gone down because here's the thing: all the internet services from the cable come through Leptelco on Main Street.
So if Leptelco is down, it will put that stuff down.
So everybody will be down at the same time. Yeah. It's never happened. So we have a data center that has power that has never gone down. But people are telling me now that it is too difficult for us to do. We're not stupid. This generation of Liberians is the most educated Liberians in the history of the country. Across any discipline you want to talk about.
We got experts all over the world.
We have Liberians who are experts. We have Liberians who are doing it in America. You see this kid, Titus? He's an expert. He just fell in our lap. Okay? We have Liberians all over the world.
And I'll be honest with you, since we've really been engaging in, just so let me knock on wood. If I found wood here that it doesn't change, this is honestly the first government I've engaged with that has actually been open, and more people are willing to talk about what's happening, to work with you. They may not have all the answers. They may not be able to really help you, but they're open to that engagement, that discussion. So I must give the government that credit. Hopefully,
and I hope
it will continue, and there can be better partnership, collaboration. There are other Liberian professionals out there. It doesn't have to be like Piso, or it doesn't have to be Isaac or George. But for the better Liberia effort, we need to incorporate more of our professionals that are out there.
And just let me say this. I will tell you point blank. I am anti-begging.
Yeah, we know that.
I'm 100% anti-begging. There is nothing that the government of Liberia needs in terms of systems and technology that we cannot develop an infrastructure for people to pay for what they have. Land registration is not free. Nowhere in the world is it free. Surveying is not free. Building a cadastro is not free anywhere in the world.
Even water, electricity, not free. People need to understand they need to pay for these things.
We need to develop. Like I said, if you look at our drone images, Isaac, I really wish you could show them the ELWA corridor there, where we marked all those buildings.
I'll see how I can find it, but be talking.
Okay, so these people are building massive amounts of buildings. The government is collecting no revenue from those buildings. The government is collecting no permitting revenue from those buildings before you even build the buildings. So when you say, why am I angry? Listen, the government of Liberia 3 years ago collected only $5 million in real estate taxes. Let me go to Cool. I will find it.
No, folks, look, y'all got George heated. We got to end this show.
Yeah.
Okay, this is the last one. This is the last one I will share with them.
We got to end this show. But instead, in terms of solutions, though, there's still things in terms of the community. There's certain communities that are not as bad yet, right? So they can start some early warning system. They can do some coastal watching.
Exactly.
The government can build up some kind of response system for people to alert, on active erosion that going on that could risk affecting the people's zone. And that way, these different risk zones can be mapped and people can have, a better idea of what's coming. We, as Lake Piso, we are available to work with government, to work with individuals, especially those in those communities today that got problems. We got engineers with us that can go and assess what it would take, to build a revetment. But like we're saying, it got to be a solid posture against a significant area, not just one place. So I know some communities or the people who have been victimized recently are looking for grant opportunities. So people who know, I mean, that again, we say in every sector there are librarians who are doing great. Yes, there are librarians in a grant writing community. There are librarians who are there that can facilitate, seeking funding from different sources. So to the extent that we can connect with some of these librarians, or they can volunteer to say, oh, you know what? There is this grant out here where they offer millions of dollars for communities that are distressed, that are being affected by, climate change, XYZ. Let's see if we can apply as a community. And I will actually reach out to somebody who I know is a grant specialist to see if there's any opportunity for us to be able to, do some stuff for these particular people affected today. Are you ready, George?
I'm ready.
All right.
Okay. You see all these
markers?
These markers. This is from the Payne Avenue 19th Street imagery. Okay. All of these markers are mid-rise buildings. They are buildings that are 3 stories and higher. These are all commercial properties. Okay. So nobody tell me. Okay. Here's the other one going towards ELWA.
Right, on the highway.
On the highway, Roberts Field Highway. Look at this. We counted just in this part here, over 49 of these mid-rise buildings. Okay? Where is the permitting? What permitting fees did the government collect? We're doing this as private people. But where is the permitting fees that the government collected for somebody to build this building right here? Okay, let me go back over here. Okay, look at all of these places. I can zoom in. I can literally show you all of these mid-rise buildings here. There are permit fees, there's inspection fees, there's revenue, taxation every year. So we need to fix these systems and stop begging for money. Nobody is going to give us money to build our country. It doesn't happen. And
we have to do it ourselves.
This is what angers me.
Okay, we got it. So
Beresford not come back. He put a new thing there.
What is it?
I like what he said. He and myself can work together.
Oh, but yeah, Beresford. I mean, he's saying what we're saying.
3 minutes ago, somebody said I was angry. Okay?
But you were acting angry.
I'm always angry. Okay.
Angry librarian.
Yes, I'm always angry. Okay. Until we fix it, I will be angry. But we need the national geospatial data infrastructure, and we have decided that our company is going to build it. The government will be dragged along, kicking and screaming, but we can't sit down and do nothing.
But did you read his last 4 sentences on this? At the moment, Liberia is about to have our own geographical reference system. We'll not be using WGS 1984 again. This is being facilitated by LLA. This information is confirmed. So you remember we're having that discussion with Solomon Vincent?
Mm-hmm.
So I got to ask him if this is based, this new thing that Beresford is sharing with us, whether it's based on the proposition that he was making in terms of what our geographical reference system should be, or whether it's something different. But this is important stuff, folks. So basically, is how our coordinates are being referenced. Right now, we're using the WGS 1984 system. And Beresford is saying a new system implemented in Liberia for our geographical reference. And it will be important, for us to know. Okay, so Musa, you're asking, can you explain what permit fees are? For example, if you want to build a house, you got to submit your plan to Public Works. Everything.
If you want to build this building right here, this building right here, okay, right. This building right here where my mouse is. The first thing you should do is you have to submit your plans, your architectural drawings to Public Works. Public Works has to confirm the land. Then they have to have their people look at your architectural drawings and say, yes, this engineering is sound.
Legit, yes.
Okay, you pay a fee for that, and the fee for that you're going to pay depends on the size of the building you are building. So this person has a 4-story building with 16 units on each side. Let's assume that they're renting each of those units for $2,000 a month.
Make it 1,000, sir.
Okay, 1,000. This person's making $16,000 every month from that property. That's about 50,000 a year.
Right, 148,000. Yeah.
Are they paying taxes on it? Are they paying taxes on that rental revenue? Are they paying property taxes on the actual structure?
Exactly. That's what I was going to add.
So it's not just the rental revenue.
So like what Noble is saying, there's a massive revenue stream out there that the government has done nothing. Well, I don't know if the government has done nothing, but they are not taking.
Isaac, if they collected $5.2 million, they've done nothing. I can collect $5.2 million from all these people right here. In this picture, I can collect $5.2 million just from these two images.
Oh, we got to understand our tax law. We got to understand what the tax rate is. We got to understand the valuation system. The first thing, people determine the value of their own property most times. Well, you put on paper. So, for example, what somebody may tell the LRA, say my building is worth, if they were to be going to jail and got to put up a bond or something, they will probably inflate that amount contrary to that. So the standards across government needs to be there, that you will not be looking at the individual to determine where the property is valued. You look at the system.
You see what Musa will say?
What is it?
Look at what Musa will say.
Once you start doing this, someone who should have done this 12 years ago will come and say, we are already working on it.
Exactly. Musa, that is the source of my frustration. 100%. Thank you.
Musa, it happens.
As soon as you start talking about it, they say, we got it. We're doing it. We're doing it. It's coming next week. Nobody wants your job. I don't want a government job. Nobody wants your job. But if we don't fix this country, foreigners are not going to fix it for us.
Well, we applaud Joseph Burger. He done start in the first direction. Let's focus on that Executive Order 147 and implement it across the country like it should be done. And then we know we're moving somewhere.
So in this little area here, I count 9 mid-rise buildings, right? Okay. I say $10,000, $10,000, that $90,000 right here in this small area right here. This is just the rental tax. That's not the actual property tax for the structure. Because let me tell you what the property tax for the structure people don't understand. Water and sewer has to pay to run water lines to these people. LEC has to pay to run power lines to these people. Okay? We Liberians, and what bothers me, Isaac, is a lot of the people who are building these things were once in the diaspora.
Yeah, but people now, especially
they know
on the
how
highway,
these things work.
Oh, Musa said he wish all the best. Musa, people have been wishing
Musa
for the last 30 something years, they've been wishing us the best. But until we go out, we'll be here trying to see how we can help make Liberia better. It's up to other people to join the bandwagon, and up to you, Musa, your man and you, for us to turn some of these, mindset, this effort, these fights to you, the Kaija, the Noble, all of your young people. And seriously, folks, I'm not despondent in terms of the next generation. A lot of people put down the next generation, the next 2 generations, whatever. But there are some young people who are really focused on making Liberia better, who really want Liberia better. Some real, professionals we have in this space. Yes, the conditions, the foundations of some of the learning is suspect in terms of what we had after the war. But many of these young people have elevated themselves. We have a Titus here who is about to get his PhD probably next year once he finishes his dissertation. There are other young people I've been talking to. You know, I've been reaching out for some professionals in aquaculture, in legal stuff. Look, I never laughing.
You see my man Beresford? He's getting geospatial data look assumptions.
So yes, there is money in the country, but we got to spend the money for the right reason. There are expertise in the country, but we have to tap into them and let their creative juices, the stuff to learn, let them practice it, let it be practical for them, not try to limit them because some people may be afraid for their jobs. So if we open up this thing, look, seriously, I believe Liberia can be a much better place. But I think we've said enough for the day.
Okay, I got one more to say. So I think the final thing about the tax collection, the revenue collection thing, and this is I'm going to plug like Piso directly in this thing.
Okay.
You can't see these things from the ground. Okay.
A lot of things you can see from the ground.
Of it from the ground. So the reason I shifted to this particular place, Isaac, is yes, if you're walking, you can see this high-rise building right here. Okay. You can see this building right here. But you know what you don't see? You don't see that somebody has a 5-unit compound right down here. Okay?
Right. Because
you don't see that somebody
can have 1 acre
right here.
Somebody can have 1 acre and build one little small 3-bedroom house on it. And somebody can have 1 lot and go vertical and build, 16 apartment units.
Okay, Hemi now says that he's concerned about compliance and legal matters.
He need to. That other boy, he just let law business.
In which way? Nobody make a picture on there.
Let him break it down. Because they got no fly zone. They got restricted areas. We got our Liberia Civil Aviation Authority. And we are going to start pushing to them possible legislation. In some countries, look, we are going to Kenya when, George? In September, right?
In September.
We're trying to go to Kenya. George wrote the Kenyan government to find out whether we can take our drones and fly our drones. What did he tell you, George?
I wrote them and I said, I'm an FAA licensed drone pilot, Federal Aviation Authority, licensed drone pilot. I would like to bring my mini drone to Kenya. You know what the people told me? I would say it in a different way, but I'll just tell you what it officially said. You're not Kenyan, get out of our face. Okay? If you're not a Kenyan, you can't fly a drone in Kenya. Period.
And that's recreational level, not
that's recreational drone.
So just imagine you try to get a commercial opportunity, whereas we have no restriction. Anybody can. The only protected class in Liberia, I think, are lawyers.
It's lawyers.
Nobody can practice law. But we need to start to define some other protection for certain.
As a matter of fact,
as well,
the Kenyan Aviation Authority said we can send you a link for Kenyan companies that fly drones. So if you want them to take pictures for you, you pay them for them to take pictures for you.
Oh, Bertha want access to your data.
For miracles, you need 5 authorizations from 5 ministries. 5.
Wow. They're just telling you no, but they won't tell you no.
Okay, so Burns, he says, let us know where we're going to share the data.
Building the platform.
Okay, so Beresford, let me tell you, let me he sounds like he knows what he's talking about.
No,
so let me tell you what we're doing.
No.
Okay.
But George, didn't you get on the phone with me that day when I was talking to him? Didn't you get on the phone that day when I was talking to Beresford?
No, I didn't. We have a QGIS platform that we're right now is in the cloud. We're bringing that server to Liberia.
Beresford needs to call offline. He needs to call offline.
No, we'll talk to him.
We're bringing all of these things to have them in Liberia so they can be easily accessible. Banks need this data. A whole bunch of people need this data. So the question now becomes, how do we make it work? So I finished with all the big book. Beresford, call me.
That's a different show. All right, folks. So thank you. We've really hopefully sparked the conversation around this. Again, want to express our serious empathy towards the Johnson family for what happened to their property. And hopefully we engage with them to see how we can support, whatever they're trying to do, whether it's to rebuild, whether it's to build a revetment, or, some other options in terms of seeking external support. We are open to working with the three key government agencies that control the Ministry of Public Works, the Ministry of Mines and Energy, and the
Mass
EPA.
energy.
In any way, especially when it comes to the certification, situation, being able to look at new coastal development. And you see, one of the things, and George, it always reminds me of this. Anytime you look at these area images, you see something new. Basically, you see opportunity. Let me give you an example. We are bidding for a proposal to do like LiDAR. George, break down LiDAR again.
LiDAR is laser
Laser.
scanning.
Yes. Okay. Basically, it's laser aerial scanning where you do a deeper dive, like on a canopy. You can see the spacing, everything.
So you get the exact topology when you're under a canopy of trees.
Right. So it's good for forest stuff. And there's a group that is looking at 570 megawatts on the St. John River, and they over a 193 kilometer stretch, and they put out a bid, for a Liberian company or for companies, anybody out there to bid for that to do the topographical studies. And we, based on the fact that partnership is great, we form a consortium with two other Liberian companies that do similar things, and they do actual land survey to submit for that. But the point I'm trying to make is, after you look at that, yeah, they will focus on electricity, right? Just building dams, building the reservoirs and stuff. Now, George lives near a lake, Segura, but it's also a dam. And a dam is a lake by nature, right? By definition.
So here's the picture here.
You put the picture up. Let me see.
Right, the picture's up.
Okay.
So this is the Saguaro Lake Dam. It's about 5 minutes from my house. But you see where the red spot is? That's the Saguaro Lake Marina.
Right.
People have their boats there. Some people literally live on the lake.
There's a great opportunity for tourism there, especially ecotourism. In that Grand Bassa all the way to Bon, 193 kilometer stretch of the St.
Yeah,
John's
from
River.
St. John.
Right. So they want to do actual 7 dams, 7 reservoirs, and then that 7 project areas. So imagine the economic impact if this kind of project can go through, affecting that whole stretch, creating economic corridors, because then roads will be built, the power lines will be run, jobs will be created, and then it will have access for ecotourism. George told me about the tubing down the river. We see that in places we go on vacation and stuff, people doing it. So the opportunities here for us is huge. It's just about how we work together, how we implement it, and how we push local content, Liberian participation in all of this stuff. So folks, really appreciate all of those who stayed with us.
I said, you had the people tubing right here down. You had the people on their kayaks.
Yes.
On the river.
Yeah.
On the Salt River. You see them?
Right.
So they start all the way up where the dam is, and they go down.
And don't worry, George said you will drive your boat and go down, but coming up, because it's tough to paddle up or whatever.
Right.
You take a bus or take a vehicle.
You take a bus. They have a bus that takes you up to the head of the river.
And
so
for those who get
people who like drinking beer, let me tell you how it works. You get your inner tube. You take one inner tube and you put your cooler with your club beer inside. You and your man and star at the top. It takes about 3 to 4 hours to get to the bottom. In the meantime, your music blasting and your club beer just floating with you. By the time you reach to the bottom, you charge. And then the police that set up checkpoint right there for you.
So folks, yes. I mean, we have some great comments from people here who share some information. We probably need to look at the zoning law to see why it's not effective. Somebody is saying it's outdated. And anything that was done in 1957, I don't care what it is today, is probably outdated.
It's outdated. But this is why I keep using the phrase whole of government. All government agencies have to work together, and they have to work aggressively because time is short. Time is short. But I think the most important thing is for us to now start looking at local funding strategies
Using our own money for ourselves. We are
to
using
use our money
foreign
for
people money.
ourselves.
Let's use our own money.
Exactly.
There's so many ways we
Exactly.
can do that. So Titus, let me hear from you. You summarize this thing and close us up, and then we can try to get out of here because we'll get George a chance to talk again. We'll be here.
Okay, so firstly, from the base of the data, I think we have made some improvement. Trying to get the data and for people that are researching or people that want, like just an example for Morocco, every year that almost 50 plus students that they send to various university just to do research. They pay them just to do research on any topic in the country. And at the end of the day, they come back, they keep them at the ministry. So we are hoping that the government can do more on that. Woo!
Wonderful.
Man, look at them.
Thank you. We appreciate you all for watching. We appreciate all the people who commented. It shows that we are invested in this process and we'll continue to push this information. I know some of our leaders are listening, some of them are watching, and hopefully we'll have more conversation about these things and expand the knowledge base of people who want to be involved, expand the participation, and then be able to impact our country. George,
Blackie, call me.
All right, later.
No, but he said something is as good as gone.
No, I think what's her name was asking about a particular location, Bernice Alpha, and I think he was responding to her that it was gone. I don't know whether he was talking about West Point or some particular physical location, but yes, you can talk to him about it, and hopefully we'll have another discussion. Like I said earlier, hopefully we can get some of our government folks on to sensitize, share more information about what they're doing, some of these projects, and let people know that maybe they're just not letting grass grow under their feet, or they're just not standing still on the sand, but they're actually trying to do the right things for the Republic of Liberia. So thank you, and we'll talk to you later. Goodbye.
Wait, don't cut it here. One guy say I'm blocking. I gotta fix.
Oh, you see, your quick temper now, they may not bring the secret in the public.
Blocking, if I'm blocking ever since.
But yeah,
he got sense now.
Oh. All right, I will introduce him to you so you can talk separately, okay? All right, goodbye. Peace.
All right.